Good morning and welcome back to the Gilf's Den, Sex Talk with Granny, where age is just a number. I am Stephanie, your host and your granny, and I am here with Sky Dufaux for our second session on domestic violence. And how Sky's going to give us some tools that we can use to get out and how he got out. And it's just one person's way. There's lots of people, lots of different ways, but he's going to give us his way that he got out. So thank you, Sky, for joining us again.
It's a pleasure to be here, Steph, always.
So tell me, so I know you said that once you figured out that she was narcissistic and there was nothing you can do, there's no treatment. Is that what finally made you go, okay, this is it now? Because part of understanding abuse is you have to know that you're being abused.
Yeah.
To be able to get out.
Yeah. So what I guess my thought process was what I want to do is shut down the abuse. I wanted to shut down the abuse, get it under control so that I wouldn't be terrorized, and then figure out a plan. Right. I mean, I just felt like I was, under so much pressure all the time and constantly under threat that I needed a space to kind of think about what my move would be. And I mean, I don't know if I would suggest this approach to your listeners, but I mean, based on the literature I've read, one way to deal with them is to threaten them back, to say, I'm going to expose you. I will, and if you even begin a campaign against me, anywhere, if there's any more of this abuse, then I will go everywhere I can and expose you for what you are, and you won't know how it happens. You won't know when it happens, but you have to stop the abuse. Otherwise I will tell people, I will remove the mask from your face. And of course they'll try to respond with more threats and just be like, you need to stop. That's it. This whole game that you're playing is done with. And so in a way, it's just and then when they come at you, this is very important. It's gray rock. You're just inert matter. So in other words, what they try to do is pull you into different conversations by defending the reality. Really, they say, you did this, you did that, this happened, and then I did this, and right, and you just be like, I'm listening. Yeah, okay, sure, it's nice. Yeah, how does that make you feel? They'll go on and on, and then you just continue on with your day. They try to pull you in. You just kind of let it pass through you, like it doesn't. It's just noise. It's just noise. Just be like, are you still talking? Who are you talking to? Because no one is here listening to you. No one is interested in what you have to say. I'm sorry, but could you please, create an environment that is not filled with screaming children?
Yeah. But so to get to that hardening place, okay, where you can be, where it doesn't penetrate, okay, right? So they're talking to you and they're fucking with your mind saying, well, if you didn't do this, I wouldn't have done that. And you did this for me to do that. And all of these, little things that they try to get you back in, hooked, and make you feel like it was really you. Okay. It's really you. That's the problem. It's not me. How does that happen? Do you know what I mean?
The first thing is to realize that this person does not love you and wishes you harm, and that what you need to do is to protect yourself from their thoughts and ideas, because they're completely wrong and they're only designed to hurt you. So they're going to send every dagger at every vulnerable place And they have studied you. They know your psychology almost better than you do. They've mapped your weak points. And you just need to realize that the only way they can hurt you is if you let them. And you can't, even if they do score a hit, you just need to smile at them and shake your head sadly, like, this is, I would feel sorry for you, but there's nothing to feel sorry for. There's really nothing inside you. So, I mean, this is the thinking that you need to have, right? That this person is not a human being who loves you. This person is not the person that they say they are. You are not the person that they say they are. And you need to just divide your world from them, especially your inner space first. You need to protect. They're trying to tear down your identity, right? They're trying to tear down your own story of yourself and get in there and replace it with their story, right? And you have to realize that all of that coming at you is pure venom. It's coming from a place of self-hatred, the need to control you, to feel better about themselves. By controlling you and destroying what's beautiful and amazing in you, that makes them feel better. They actually get a dopamine hit from causing you psychological trauma. They get high.
That's just crazy.
Like we get pro-social hits, like being among friends and family and feeling trusted and having loyalty and compassion exchanged, acknowledgement, mutual seeing, listening. They don't get pleasure from that. These kind of pro-social activities, they only get pleasure from dominating people and then receiving attention. That's it. Nothing else gives them joy. So that what they want to do is they want to get high off of breaking you down and then get high from you seeking them out. No one would love you. You're unlovable. There's the only thing positive about you is your money, or the only thing good of everyone around you is just using you for money because you're nothing. No one would be your friend if it wasn't for your money. They'll try to get in your mind and create paranoia or fear or play on your worst, darkest fears. And that if you respond emotionally in any way to that, you're getting them off, right? And so there shouldn't bring a deep, you should never bring out your deep anger, your passion, self-defense, anything at all. What kills them is receiving nothing back. They're wasting their energy just shooting at you. And if you're like, whatever you say, I don't care because it's all made up anyway. You're just a sick person trying to get off. I'm not going to help. Sorry.
So I know you're, from my experience of that type of style, they use that and then abuse more sometimes when you don't respond to them because they want you to. So then they do other means such as physical, hide things, take things, make you go, you know what I mean? Like, so.
Right. If they do that, then you just say, I'm going to expose you to everybody. I'm going to start posting about it on my social. I'm going to call all of my friends and family. I'm going to call your workplace. I'm going to tell everybody what you've done to me. And if I hear you doing anything like that to assassinate my character, then it'll just be on, I'll do the same
because
thing.
That's actually what would happen is that they would probably go and, did she do that to you? Well, it didn't happen, but
yeah,
were you worried that was?
Again, like we didn't have any mutual friends. Some of the people that we were involved with, I had already discovered that she was poisoning them against me. So, she was already telling stories about me to people that we mutually
knew.
Yeah. So, getting on to me, all right. I had a very wealthy friend who was also very vindictive, and not just for himself. He would go after people who hurt his friends. And she knew this because she heard the stories directly from him. And I told her, I said, I've told Mike, sorry, can you edit that out? I don't want to say his name.
Okay. Let's stop.
Okay. Going on. I'm only barely able to hold him back. If you do anything more, I won't be able to stop him. no matter what I might want or how I might want to protect you. There's nothing I can do. You're hanging by a thread. He wants to go after you and destroy everything. Your reputation, your job, sue you, get you into court, take all your money, just ruin you. Leave you in the dirt. And that was convincing. A while. I thought I had a job opportunity in Boston through this friend, but then it turned out that the company that he wanted me to take over had some serious issues. And unfortunately, then it didn't work out and I had to come back, which was terrible. I thought out. I had moved. I had gotten rid of a lot of my possessions. I was living in my suitcases, and I came back. And I had done the good thing and paid 2 months' rent and set her up with the food service, like all the nice things that I would just do. I shouldn't have, right? But at that point, I was still in that mode where I cared about her, even though I knew what she was. I was there for a couple of weeks, and she, just to give you some. She went off and had sex with 7 different men in the space of 3 months and told me all about it.
Wow.
Yeah. Just like
so those 2 weeks were just about her saying about her sex. So it was just, there was no love. It was just bragging.
Well, yeah. And she was constantly in communication with all these men that she had been carrying on with. And she was so successful at this game that she had already received 2 marriage proposals in the space of 2 months. That's how good they are. Yeah. One of them is a film producer who has like a 18-room mansion in London. And then another one was like a big banking executive in Houston. And guys are flying in from all over the country to bang my wife. She's good. She's good at that game. So, and she loved telling me about it. Yeah. So ultimately, you'll tell your story that I came back and I didn't have a plan and I just thought, okay, let's stay together for a while. So I tried to patch things up with her. And of course she's carrying on with all these other men already. I've been out of the house for 2 weeks and she's, she already feels like it's her space, even though I paid rent for 2 months. She's like, why are you back? Like this, and she would be going on with him. Like he came and he won't leave. I'm like, this is my house. All these things are mine. I was like, I was going to go start a new life somewhere and basically let you have all of my possessions just to be nice because I was going to have a high start over. But now you are treating me like I'm, a stranger in my own home. We didn't file for divorce. Like we were just going to separate. Anyway, so it went down this road and she was very strange. I could tell like the chameleon face that she had for me had dropped and she was a different person. I felt like I really saw this, and she was really feeling her power. She was strutting around. She was like, because she had all this attention, and all these men and hot sex, and she felt like she was in a position of control, and then we going up to my friend's lake house for 4th of July. And it was like the first time that he allowed her near him because I told him, please, man, I'm just trying to patch it up for a minute. Like he set me off on this wild goose chase for a business for me to take over and it's not there. And I got to live somewhere,
Yeah.
I don't have a salary and a place to live in, like you said. I got to go back to my apartment and figure things out, He said, so I said, can you help me just patch things up with her? Like, can we do that?
Yeah.
And so I went up there first. She then leased a car, helped her with that. She got rid of my car, leased a car under her own name, came up in that car and was actually getting my help to figure out like all of the details around it. And then she arrives in this fancy car that's like, she's like leasing for like $850 a month. I'm like, how are you going to pull that off? Anyway, hey, hi, good to see you. She stayed for one night? It was one night. And then she didn't participate in any of the activities. It's 4th of July. We're playing, cornhole and going barbecues, and he's got a speedboat and jet skis. And I said, why don't you come out on the jet skis? No. Why don't you come to the barbecue? No. She'd just be inside the room taking a bath and texting, taking pictures of herself to all her boyfriends. Like 7 boyfriends. And I think that she went, and I think that she got afraid, just paranoid, that, something bad was going to happen to her and that we had drawn her for nefarious purposes. He's got his whole family there. The kids are there. But I think that she just got paranoid because of all of her bad things she was doing. I couldn't understand why she would go out on the sunset cruise on the boat. Because I think she might have been imagined, that we're going to throw her off with everybody on the boat too, right? Yeah, oh, no worries. Just forget about her.
We're just going to throw one person off. That's it. We're going to leave her in the lake and we're going to go on our way.
It's so strange. And then, so I was down, she every time I checked on her, she was in the room. And then I went down to the dock. It's nighttime. The fireworks are going to start. My friend pats me on the shoulder and says, hey, why don't you check on your wife? I haven't seen her for a while. And she's cleared out. She's gone. All the luggage is gone. The new fancy little car is gone. She just suddenly disappeared, ran back to Oakland, and filed a restraining order against me. Because she was so threatened by our beautiful 4th of July celebration at a lakeside mansion. I mean, it was like, what? I mean, she called me in the middle of the night and said, I'm staying at a motel. Don't try to find me. I'm like, what? She's like, I know you're out to get me. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, I filed a restraining order. You can't come back home. Okay. So at that point, I was cat adrift. Because in California, the instant you file a temporary restraining order, it always gets approved. And so I couldn't come home. And anyway, so I stayed with my friend for a while. And then I guess I wanted to move out to Florida. And while I was out here, she emptied the bank accounts, shut down the credit cards, and she filed for divorce also, of course. And I mean, in the end, she got her restraining order because in California, if you're a man and a woman's filed a restraining order against you, the judge will almost always just grant it. She didn't have witnesses or anything, but she did fabricate evidence. She found a 4-year-old picture of me holding a gun from when I went shooting with a friend, and she popped it into the text stream and then printed it out. And I went to court, and they gave me this evidence at the last minute that they had just submitted. And it was a bunch of pages of text messages, many of them she had made up. All it was bubbles. At the top, in tiny letters, it just said, Sky Dufaux. And she presented that as if it were evidence. And I objected. I said, we have no idea where this came from, Judge. There's no foundation for this evidence. This is just a few pieces of paper. It could have been made in Photoshop. And the judge says, okay, to the plaintiff, how did you obtain this? I used a computer program and downloaded it off of my phone. And are these messages between you and the defendant? Yes, they are. Evidence is admitted. Which, I mean,
wow.
Those are not the rules of evidence procedure at all. I mean, apparently you can do that. And so, cool, right? I knew at that point it was over. And of course, I had to listen to the judge tell me that I was a wife abuser and that, I hope this, would teach me my lesson. And then I also had to give up my guns, and I never had a gun. So I had to prove that I never owned a gun, which is a strange thing to have to prove, proving that you never had something. So anyway, that happened. But let me put it this way. That was a blessing in disguise. Because both ways. She contacted me at all. And I didn't contact her. It's like the biggest problem that you have with a narcissistic ex-partner is that they keep trying to worm their way back into your life, And ultimately, she did that through a third party. She had contact with me 3 months later, around December. She said, "There's a sky-shaped hole in my life." I'm like, she's like, you're like a ghost. I'm like, no, I'm right here. I'm still alive. Mm-hmm. She said, you're like your ghost everywhere in the house. I said, well, is it at least a friendly ghost like Casper?
You're so funny. I love you.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
That's awesome.
So anyway, yeah, so it was interesting because I had that conversation and I had learned all these techniques now, and she came at me from every direction, you know, and I just gray rocked her. She was talking about our destiny, our amazing love, and how we're twin flames, and how could, based on our trip to India and all of our experiences, how could we possibly separate? And I said, well, how am I supposed to come home? I mean, I'd be violating a court order. She's like, oh, I'll take care of that. Don't worry. I'm like, Anyway. So yeah, it is a through the looking glass world to be involved with these people. And I think one of the biggest challenges is because they're so abnormal and the relationship is therefore so bizarre that when you share what happened to people, they just can't believe it.
No, right.
They can't believe
exactly.
someone would act that way. And it's, I mean, I think that's one of the scariest parts is you yourself, you know, you wonder who it is, who can I go to get help? Like, is anyone going to believe this? You know, is anyone going to care?
I didn't go to anyone, and that's why this is so important, because I was scared and I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed that I let it go for so long. We had cops at the house, like I said, 5150s, not on me, on him. And so lots of, you know, that kind of stress. I just had to do this, be done. But so let me ask you a question. December, she contacted you, we're twin flames, blah, 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 blah. Did you go back again? Okay. I just want to know, because we do go back and forth, right? We go back and then, you know, so for the listeners, it is typical. I don't want people to feel like once you're done, and then you'll never see him again. It's not how it works. Okay. I still get stalked by him, by the way. And this has been since 2008 that we divorced. And he still does things he was doing things up until like 3 years ago. And I know his strategies, right? You know what they do, right? So he did these things, and I just took my balls out and I called his brother and I said, let me tell you what's going on. I'm getting harassed by your brother. We're divorced. And your brother lives at your mom's house. My attorney said I can sue your mom for allowing your brother to harass me, which is true. I found an attorney. Wow. So and they were wealthy. I mean, his mom was very wealthy. And I said, so I don't want to do that, because they know I was a really nice person. And, right. And the brother and I had an amazing conversation, never knew all that happened, never knew why we divorced. And I explained, and he goes, I'm so sorry. Wow. I will make sure.
Wow.
And I will make sure that he doesn't contact you. I said, okay. Well, I knew I would get a backlash by doing that and calling the brother, in which I did. So he stopped right away, but 2 months later, something else happened, and I knew it was him. Okay. I know his strategies. I know what he did. I know his ways, and I just let that one go. I thought if he does it one more time. So I just started creating I was going to do another restraining order. I mean, you know, restraining orders work for 5 years max, sometimes lifetime, but it's very hard. And so mine was 5 years, and obviously it was past that time. And then all of a sudden he just decided to try to get back into my life. Right. So it's just interesting how they are very manipulative, and people, it's hard to understand their manipulation, you know, And your head goes crazy because you want to get your head around it. But the bottom line is you won't get your head around it. It will never make sense.
No.
Never.
They're just not built the same way. I mean, you can't ask them to engage in pro-social behavior because they don't get pleasure from it, and they're not wired for empathy. They don't feel bad for you. If you feel bad and they made you feel bad, then they feel good. That gets them on.
Right.
Yeah. If you feel bad and you're coming to them for support because something happened in your life and you're feeling bad, then they feel annoyed. You're clinging. Get off me. You're bothering me. This isn't my problem. But then if they ever want you back, or if they want to pull you back in, I mean, I think what's hard for people to understand is how good they are.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Just how persuasive they can be, in becoming the person that you remember, the person that you want to be. I mean, why is it that my ex-wife got 2 marriage proposals in 2 months? How could she do that? Because she became everything these men wanted. She observes them carefully and then gradually becomes that exact thing. And then starts talking to them. Oh my God, this is incredible. What we have is like nothing else I've ever experienced in my life. We're meant for each other. And it's powerful and persuasive. And so when, and they know your weak spots. And so when they come back with those eyes and that charisma and you want to have that person to obsess over you again. But that's short-lived. They're only obsessing over you because they want to control you again. Mm-hmm. The thing that hurts them the most is knowing that you left and you're doing great.
Yes.
That destroys their sense of importance. Mm-hmm. Because to them, you're their possession. And how dare you leave? Like, you can't leave. You're a part of me. I own you. Yeah. Right?
Well, I was told if I left.
Well, it destroys their sense of themselves. Yeah.
He told me if I left, he'd find me and kill me. But I didn't care. I'm like, I don't care. I try it. Go ahead. I mean, I guess if that happens, it is. That's how bad I wanted out, and I didn't care. But my mom, I mean, people around me, oh my gosh, I'm so worried for you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I honestly didn't feel worried. I didn't. I was like, I'm so over this. I'm done. It's time to move on. This is the most unhealthy thing, and I'm going to be healthy. So if I die healthy, then okay. Okay. And that was always something in my mind. But like I said, 2008, we're in 2023. Okay.
Yeah, that's a
and
lot
he's still
of time. Yeah.
Lot of time. And he's still, 3 years ago, it stopped after 3 years. But I also heard that he's dying. And so he doesn't have time because he's on his deathbed. He's younger than me, but he has health issues. And so I think that's why I don't hear from him, which is great. But you can be impenetrable. You have to be. You can't let them penetrate you. Like you said, be the gray rock. And then, sometimes, like you said, you have to stay there until your plan works out. You don't know if you can. I mean, sometimes it's just not like that. You can leave.
Yes.
So they say to make an emergency bag that you have all of your documents, your passport, all the things, because that's what they like to take away from you. That, here, I've got your passport. I like, so have that important.
Hidden.
They actually have this thing where the domestic violence shelters will actually give you a special phone that they don't know about. It's a throwaway. Okay. So, they do that to help you. And then, so that way you can plan your exit. So when you're the ones that I've had to help, they get them in the middle of the night. They get them when they're going to work, and then they get the girls out, and that's it. They pretty much walk out with nothing except for their important bag, and I've seen this a lot. So you left everything.
I did.
She got everything.
2 suitcases. All I have left from my entire life, I'm 50 years old, is what I could carry in 2 suitcases. She got my grandmother's pots and pans. And to her, it's all hers. That's the thing about these people, is they accumulate other people's possessions over time. So they're like an amoeba that just absorbs energy from its surrounding. But I got to tell you, I want to, something occurred to me while you're speaking. I want to talk to our viewers. Do you see how strong this woman is? How remarkably strong, tough as nails, ass kicking, go ahead and try and kill me. You could just look in her eyes like, I don't care. She fell victim to this narcissist. He pulled her back in. He was able to abuse her. Ultimately, she left. But I just want to expand your thought a little bit and say, it doesn't happen to just weak people. And it doesn't make you weak if you've been abused. You have to understand, these people, this is what they live for. This is what they have trained their entire life to do. They're so good at it.
Very good. Very good at it.
Yeah.
And thank you for saying that, because but I was tough, but it broke me down. I mean, I know I was broken after that. I was really broken. And like you, it took time to heal. And my 1 year of healing was horrible because we were in the recession after 2008. So I started a business because I had a way of working with doctors, and so many people wanted to hire me. And then the doctors that I left to start my own business made sure that I didn't have any business, and made sure that they also made sure, because he was narcissistic, that doctor, made sure that I would get nothing in my area. So within 1 year, I got divorced. I lost my house. I had nothing. He took everything, whatever. I was very kind to him, and I set him up somewhere, like you, set it up. And then I left because I was head of household. And I ended up moving out of the area, 400 miles away. And that actually was what started helping me heal.
I moved across the country. Yeah. I moved from California to Florida.
I know.
I'm like, I just want to put as many miles between me and her as I possibly can. It's kind of laughable to me that anyone would think that I would go and try to stalk her. I mean, I'm trying to get away from her.
Well, I know you. I know your personality, and we've spent, as we were filming with our business coach, we've spent weekends together, filming, working together. And I watched you struggle that weekend, that she harassed you pretty much the whole time. And so I know you're not a stalker. You're a very kind, loving person. Like I said before in my last one, you're an empath. You're an empath. You have the heart of gold. You want the best for everybody. I mean, honestly, like, you're a pure hippie because you were raised as a hippie, but you are a hippie. All right. You're a hippie. And hippies are just not mean people. They're not. And that's why I know where your heart is. I know you. And I know that this has been a struggle. I watched you, and I even sent a message to our business coach saying, You will not believe who's back. And boy, is he back and strong. I'm like, what? And
oh, really?
so I just want you to know,
great.
because well, we have tried to work together, remember? But then it was always her. Like, she always was like we'd do phone calls and it was like, we couldn't even work together. So I watched you, I know, and I love you. And that's why I want the listeners to see, yes, you are 6'5", you're huge. I'm 5 feet. You look like a giant. But you're the sweetest giant that I know.
Oh, thank you, Steph.
So that I know that you would not, that's not your intent. Okay, and I know that was been a big issue because you are this giant, 275 pounds, good looking, gorgeous, great body. Really? You were abused? Really?
Right.
Yeah, I was. Any more communication or divorce final? Everything done?
Divorce is not final. I don't want to get into that. It's not some big battle. It's just kind of sitting there. Yeah, I have had no more contact. I don't, it's kind of funny. My phone will like say feature photos and stuff, and I haven't deleted the photos. I kind of have to me, it's kind of like therapy in a way. Like when I see a photo of her pop up, it's like, do I feel anything? Do I see anything in those eyes? Is there anything I can recognize or connect to? And I do I have negative emotions? Like, it's a great little check-in. Like, where are you at? And honestly, they come up and I'm like, yeah, I don't really see the glimmer of humanity in that face. I don't really see the connection. Because I'm looking at other photos of me with my friends, even my new friends, or even just different ones I dated briefly or who are flirting with me now. I just look at their face and I see this light, this connection, this humanity. And I look at hers and I just see this kind of dead wall. And I'm like, okay. Whatever it was that I saw was my own projection onto her, right? I put that there, I was ensorcelled. I was entranced, but it was never actually there in the first place. And
did anyone?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just would say that I don't feel anything.
That's awesome.
And that's amazing. That's amazing.
That's huge. Huge.
Like a picture of a person I once knew, but I don't feel anger, regret, any draw in any direction, or even numbness. I just don't feel anything. And I'm like, I really have pulled that demon out of my heart.
Yeah. And it is a demon. Yes. It is, because they do wrap in your heart and they can pull at it constantly. It's like, it's crazy. My question to you was, did anyone ever, I know you said that your mom and your dad and all that. Okay. Aside from that, did anyone come to you and say, get away from her? She's not healthy.
In the aftermath, in the aftermath, I had friends say, I wanted to talk to you about it, but you were so wrapped in it, and it just felt like all it would do is poison our friendship, and I think I think that's the difficulty, in helping kind of victims of domestic violence, whether they're involved with a narcissist or not, is that because you kind of can't, because the person, until they free themselves, you can't free them, right? And if you want to maintain proximity, it's so hard. I can't imagine what it's like for people. Like, they don't want to look away, but if they try to come to your rescue, then you might push them away. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And so how do you deal with that? And I haven't been on the other side of trying to support someone who is a victim of domestic violence. That might be an interesting segment. for another show to just ask what's it like, what are the strategies, because that is a good question. You know, if you're really close, but the person is all wrapped up in this, you know, how do you begin to tease that apart? You know, probably recommending that they go to therapy, you know, maybe trying to get them away for a little while. But again, the abuser won't ever let the victim out of their sight. Complete control. You can't go there without me.
Yeah. The reason why I say, did anyone tell you? So picture this. I didn't live in San Francisco at the time. We're in San Francisco for the weekend. We're at a restaurant waiting to go in. And this lady comes up to me and says, who's that guy? And I go, he's my husband. He had walked away. He had gone to the bathroom or something. And she goes, you need to get away from him. He is extremely dark. He is not healthy, and you need to get away from him. And I went, wow. Like, now I had already had feelings because we were married and I already had this shit going on. But, you know, my mind, I'm like, you know, marriage forever. We got to work through things, not understanding the true meaning of abuse. So that stuck with me. I never told him. And I went, And that was the plug but it was still, I'm going to tell you, 3 or 4 years later that it finally ended. So I'm just saying, you're right. It's hard to help people who have it. And I know I have helped a girlfriend specifically in a different country who had moved here and moved to a different country, who was being physically abused. And I basically said, come to me, come here. You need to leave, come back. You can come to my house. You will heal. And we were friends for many years. And, but she would not leave him. She would not leave him. And he broke her arm, and she, you know, he was physically, mentally, verbally, everything. And I think she's still in it today. So she's probably now, 20 years into it. But
she's still with him?
Yeah. I don't talk to her anymore. We stopped talking. What happened was I went there for a visit. It was in Switzerland. I went there and I stayed at their house. Within 1 week, I was gone. He was so out of control. And then he went off on me because I took a beer out of the fridge to have a beer while we watched the soccer playoffs. So because of that and that craziness, I'm like, and I already knew he was abusive. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, you know what? This is not healthy for me. I don't need to do this. And I'm going to leave. I fucking packed my bags. They wouldn't drive me to a hotel. I walked to some bus station and I'm crying. And I had the most amazing man help me in his business, get me to a cab, he hooked me up in a hotel. I paid for it. He just put me to the right place. And he goes, this is where you'll be safe. And I said, oh my God, it was the nicest thing. So I just want people to know it's all around us. We see it constantly, but that doesn't mean that we have to partake in it. We do not have to. We don't have to help people stay in it. The best is to help them get out of it. It's not healthy. So, but yeah, I just thought that was interesting no one helped me like you. And I did it alone. And it was hard. I mean, it was hard. And I didn't talk about the abuse for at least 3 years. And then I finally admitted I was physically, emotionally, verbally, mentally abused. So, but you're right. You have to get there yourself. And until you get there, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, so hard to just make up your mind to leave because you're just so tangled up in the other person, and you know that they're going to be so irrational and violent. They're not going to let you leave peacefully. But at the end of the day, like, look at you and look at me, like, we just up and left. I mean, that's ultimately all you can do. Like, if you think that you can salvage some part of your old life, you probably can't. You know, you're in the lair of the wild animal that's eating you. You don't need to worry about your bag and your camera. You need to get out and run for your life. Just like in a horror movie, you're like, no, don't go back for your purse. Don't go back for your purse. Like, run. Think of yourself as a potential victim in a horror movie, and you don't go back in the house. You just run.
Yes, it's true. And you have to leave it.
Yeah.
And leave it all there. Because it's material items. It doesn't mean anything. It's material. And I understand, photographs, he would burn photographs of my kids and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he was vicious. And because he knew that was important to me, my kids. And so
anything to you, yeah.
Anything. So I just want to give a few steps. So recognize the abuse, develop a safety plan, get your bag and all the possessions that you need to be able to, Social Security, driver's license, get a job, birth certificate, all the things that you need to be able to recreate your life again, because that's pretty much what you're going to do. It's going to be, if you want to get out of if you're going to end the abuse, you're going to have to leave it all behind and move on. And that's it. New life. But you got to have therapy. I mean, do not think that this is not something. I didn't do therapy. I will say that in the beginning. And then it's not good for your head because you just, spin. But I did do, I finally worked at the domestic violence shelter. I got my certificate. That's where my healing began. And listening to other stories, even worse than mine, and realizing that it's everywhere. And the next person sitting next to you could be suffering and we don't know. So be kind to people. You got to build a support system. It's very difficult. And even if that support system is a domestic violence shelter and you reach out and you're starting to talk to them, it's okay. You don't have to go right away, but reach out to the people that know how to do this type of transition, who are experienced. I mean, I heard stories of people getting people in the middle of the night. I mean, once they're asleep, they go get them, they sneak them out. I mean, it's crazy. And the other thing I learned about domestic violence is you're right. You got to get out of that town. You have to leave wherever that is. And the way that they place domestic violence women and men in shelters is, so let's say you live in LA. Well, they wouldn't put you in LA. They'd put you somewhere else, like up a mountain. They put people up in Big Bear or Lake Tahoe, places where you wouldn't think. And the homes are very secret. No one knows. They look like every other home. And they're never identified by anybody. Okay. So, and you don't, like, I didn't get to go to the shelter until I was there for 6 months. And I was doing other just admin stuff. And then, so they have a very strict way of letting people in, okay? Because we don't want any more harm to the people that are there recovering, right? So it's a process, but support is huge. Support is huge. And sometimes your support might be no one else but people that you don't know. Like what, you had a friend, but you were still by yourself. You still had to do it alone.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, yeah. I mean, I had a place to stay for a while, but I mean, unfortunately, he was also in a twisted up, abusive relationship. with abuse on both sides and all kinds of bad things. And it was extremely unhealthy for me to leave. It was like out of the frying pan into the fire. So ultimately I moved to Florida, and luckily I had some funds that weren't in bank accounts, that were in cash apps. So when she cleaned me out, I had about $4,000 or $5,000 to relocate. And it was easier for me than a lot of people, just because I have independent source of income from my employment. Like, my employment is a consultancy, and so I really was able to move away, continue to earn money, and start over again.
Yes.
And I am grateful for that. And I know that is not the typical story. I know it's often much, much more difficult. So
it can be. And, but I just want to say, I'm grateful that you had resources so that you were able to help yourself. But I want our listeners to know that the shelters have lots of resources, and they get you set up. They get you healed. They get you set up. They get you, if you don't have a birth certificate, they help you with rebuilding your whole life. And they will take you and your children. And they have lots of places all around. Now, I've told you, the men, they have very few shelters. It's very few, less. And for gay men go into the women's shelters in their own separate side. I had that, and that was nice because they are abused as well. And but the healing with a support team, like a women's shelter or a male shelter, a domestic violence shelter, I will say I didn't do that because I was, I'm like, I'll just do this. I didn't know. I didn't want to make myself vulnerable.
I think that there's all kinds of healing modalities, which is what we're going to continue to explore in further conversations that are more about the body. But I would also say this kind of one size fits all approach to physical health, with doctors being the priesthood who have sole control over, healing your body. I also am very skeptical of psychologists having sole control and being the priesthood who can heal your mind. And, there are all kinds of other ways to heal. And when someone just always says, you had trauma, you had problems, you have to have therapy, I go, maybe for some people. For me, I took a different path. So did you.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
And I think for me, I needed to take that pain and tell the story of it, and not tell my story. But I needed to take that person who was inside me, who had tormented me, and put her into a fictional universe and let her torment other people and tell her story, and do so. And so so I wrote a full-length script. It's getting shopped around. It's called The Outer Darkness. I really do believe it's going to be made and come soon to a theater near you. It's a psychosexual thriller. And it is about a femme fatale narcissist who's just burning her way through San Francisco high society when she gets wrapped up in a criminal conspiracy with money laundering.
Love it.
It is fascinating to watch this woman believe her own lies, be in her own head, and do whatever the hell she thinks she can get away with, and not really worry about the consequences. In a way, I guess I found a way, in some way, just to kind of watch from a distance, almost in admiration. I know it sounds bizarre, but just to say, how can you get away with that? But it's not a fictional universe. Real people aren't being hurt. So it's a lot easier to find it entertaining, But so that was my therapy, was I guess you could say, writing
I love it.
I know, but it was incredibly helpful for me to pull that out and externalize it. Right.
Yes. I love it. I mean, for you to, make your abuser a separate individual, because you're so connected to them, right? So you took her outside of your body, and now you're looking this way at that person, and you can see them exactly how they work, which is then you got the stories going. That's kind of cool, because I think that our cords, do you know about cords and stuff like that? That we have cords that are attached to people? Sky. Oh, did you blip, 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 blip? Hello? You froze. Are you frozen? Okay.
Yeah, Steph, it's been such a journey into the mind of my tormentor, and normally you would think that would humanize someone, but it doesn't. I mean, if you were able to get into the mind of Adolf Hitler, I don't think that would humanize him for you necessarily. But it's still fascinating because I guess I wanted to know what made these people tick. So of course I did all the research talked about on Quora and kind of immersed myself in the literature and then would think back to how she operated. And it was very interesting because I realized it's very binary. It's black or white. Everything is divided into half. You're either with me or you're against me. You're either praising me or you're sending your attention elsewhere. You're either pure or you're corrupt, right? And it's a very binary world. And so I developed this concept of the outer darkness and the pure light. And both of them are personified in the film. And so my femme fatale narcissist lead character, you go into her mind. You see things through her eyes. Sometimes she sees demons, in human skin. Sometimes she sees the white Tara. Sometimes she imagines herself as the white Tara. And it is a really kind of interesting journey into that inner landscape of this push and pull between purity and corruption, and trying to find your way. This is from the narcissist perspective, trying to find your way in this hostile world, And so it is a meditation in a way on those two concepts and how they get really twisted up inside the mind of a sick individual. But because of that, it makes for a fascinating meta-narrative. And, everyone kind of loves and hates David Lynch because he's so creative and so disturbing, but at the same time, just incomprehensible. So I think that, I have in this project, there's kind of Nietzschean elements. There's magic realism and things that are, kind of tracking someone's inner landscape. But it is much more comprehensible than a David Lynch film, and I think it is something I'm excited to share with people, and I'm excited for folks to be able to get into the mind of, a person that operates this way, and also just in a way kind of enjoy the train wreck of her coming through different situations, and she always behaves in a completely unexpected way. Because she's following a completely different set of instructions. She's getting a hit. She's enjoying things for different reasons, So instead of, you always kind of expect a person like this to behave a way like normal people would, completely outside of what you could possibly imagine. And it's because that's what's pleasurable to her. Or she feels there's a threat that's not even there. So, yeah. So anyway, I think that's what I wanted to do, is at least give someone, not just demonize these individuals, although that is easy to do, but really take them apart because they're fascinating. I mean, what makes someone like this tick? I mean, that was what I kept wrestling, is how could someone be this way? How are they built inside that allows them to be this way? And so that's what I explore.
I love it. And I know we've given the viewers so much today. There's a discussion that you and I had a couple weeks ago, because you did so much research on all of this, and that you actually were able to figure out a little bit about how to identify some narcissistic behavior. I want you to come back and on another podcast for just the research on narcissism and help all of us be mindful of what to look for in these people. And I love the fact that you've kind of had a few
public. Okay, I'll do it.
Okay, you'll come back? All right. All right. Well, thank you, Sky.
Yeah, I'd love to share that.
I am just, we just have such great synergy. We always have since we've met each other, right? We communicate really well.
Yes.
We just have this nice flow. I love it. I love it. And I'm so grateful to be working with you, because I have to tell you, your light is so awesome, and I can see it and feel it. I can feel it. We're not even in the same room, but I can feel it.
I'm back.
And you are here. Back. Yeah. You're back. You know what? That's what I said to our business coach. I said, he's back and he's bigger than ever and he's doing good. Look at this cute little puppy. This is the other thing that helped me through my stuff, you know? So, all right. Well, we better end it here. He's saying, Mom, I got to go potty. I love you. Thank you, Sky, for joining me and my little Barkalots for another beautiful episode on the Gilf's Den.
Thank you for joining the Gilf's Den podcast with your host and Gilf, Stephanie. We intend you learned something new today. Send a message if you learned something new or have a burning question you want discussed on the podcast. We'll notify you when the show will air to listen and share with family and friends. Thank you for supporting the Gilf's Den podcast. Follow the Gilf's Den on social media apps for more information on all things sex and relationships with a touch of inspiration. Links are in the bio. Stay sexy.